Flo's here with the French newspapers now. They're commemorating the 30th anniversary today of an anti-racism march, aren't they, Flo?
That's right. It was actually the very first national anti-racism march here in France. It was called the March for Equality and Against Racism, but it was labeled the La Marche des Beurs by the French media. So that started on October 15th, 1983 in Marseille. There were 32 people at the start, and it ended on December 3rd here in Paris with more than 60,000 marchers. So papers are commemorating that today. Here's L'Humanité, the communist paper that talks about this long march for equality. The two main demands of that march were to have a 10-year residence permit for foreigners and the right to vote for foreigners, but that has yet to be done here in France.
And Libération taking a look at the situation now, really, 30 years on.
That's right. What is the generation that's continuing this struggle, the second wind, as Libération calls it? Well, Libération says they have a mix of admiration for the 1983 movement, but also, well, they're very disillusioned because a lot of the themes that movement was championing at the time, well, those themes still very much exist today, especially with the rise of the extreme right in French politics. And Libération says that, there was a lot of hope after 1983 that things would really change, but as you can see here in their editorial, they talk about history stuttering. What sparked the movement in 1983 was actually the first major victory for the Front National, the National Front, the extreme right party. But 30 years later, as we saw this weekend, the National Front is still gaining ground in French politics. Over the weekend, the National Front won a by-election in the town of Brignoles in the south of France, and that sparked a lot of attention here in France. And on top of that, Libération says that France still doesn't know how to live with the children of immigration. And on top of that, there's discrimination, exclusion, and still a lot of police violence, especially in the projects.
Le Figaro, the right-wing paper, looking at the National Front's electoral victory.
That's right. That's that election in Brignoles I was telling you about. And Le Figaro says that after Brignoles, the extreme right is a source of concern for the left, which is completely distraught. But both the left and the right, the UMP, the opposition movement, are throwing around the blame for that victory of the National Front. But Le Figaro says that the extreme right is being very tricky and sneaky about this and gaining ground while the two other parties are bickering.
Now, a lot of the papers also focusing on the French economy. Things not looking very good, I gather.
That's right. First of all, for businesses, that's on the front page of Les Echos, which says it was a deadly summer for French businesses. 7.5% of businesses went under in the third trimester. That's the most destructive third trimester since 1993. But it's also, things aren't looking so good for households either. That's on the front page of Le Monde, facing increasing taxes. Well, households are blaming the government for these excessive taxes and misusing the money the government raises with these taxes. And you can see a poll on the front page of Le Monde that says that 57% of French people feel like they're not doing their civic duty when they pay their taxes.
High taxes and a rising cost of living, all this driving a lot of Parisians to move to the countryside, apparently.
That's right. That's what Aujourd'hui en France, Le Parisien takes a look at today on their front page. The Parisians dream of leaving the city. Actually, 200,000 Parisians leave Paris every year. So Aujourd'hui en France says this is actually turning into an exodus. And in fact, there's a show opening here today in Paris for Parisians who want to leave the city. But maybe they'll run into this problem. There's a cartoon in Le Parisien today where you can see a couple talking there, and you see the man saying, life is cooler and less expensive in the country rather. And his wife is saying, but if we leave Paris, we're going to lose all the friends that we never get enough time to see. But 20 Minutes says that it doesn't always work out, and 20 Minutes takes a look at all the Parisians who left the city who are coming back and talks about the return to the capital today on the front page of 20 Minutes.
Okay, a little bit of each at the same time, no doubt. Now, finally, Le Parisien taking a look at a bit of a drug bust, which, to be frank, it's gone wrong. That's
right. It went very wrong. This was a cargo ship that was suspected of transporting 6 tons of cocaine. It was stopped by the French Navy off the coast of the Antilles, and it was combed over for 3 weeks. They were looking for this cocaine, but they didn't find cocaine. What they found was 4,000 tons of bananas. So not an overdose of cocaine, but an overdose of bananas. And this whole operation cost a lot of money, at least 1 billion euros in total. So that leaves a sour taste in your mouth. It was an international operation, so the question is who's going to pay? France hopes that's going to, share the bill with the U.S., who gave them the information in the first place. But as one man quoted in this article says, if this operation had been a success, France would not have shared the prize with the US. But they all have a lot of bananas.
Did they have to peel them all individually?
I think they might have had to peel every single banana. It's a lot of bananas.
Flo, thanks very much. Flo with the French Press Review here on France 24. Coming up for you, all the very latest news right after the break, plus whether you are Sunni or Shiite, determining if you get to live. We've a special focus report today from Iraq as sectarian violence threatens to push the country back towards civil war. That's coming up in the next half hour, so stay with us if you can.